Good morning, good afternoon, or evening. My friends, depending where you are and where I am, it's 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on January the 18th, and we're in 2020. I'm Emily Elizabeth Windsor Craig, and this is History Reset, brought to you each Saturday by People's Internet Radio in Ireland and Radio Act TV in Jerusalem, Israel, to bring valuable information to the public that corporate media refuse to divulge. This program is a public service, but you're welcome to please donate to People's Internet Radio to keep people's truth coming at you and without commercial adverts. So what are we talking about today? I have been under psychic attack for a whole week, so this is a good time to talk about who are the Illuminati and what are their methods, what are they trying to do, and how far along are they? And I don't think you're going to be very happy with what I'm saying because I'm not happy with it, but I have to start with my experience. And hey, Steve, I hope you're going to pop in here with questions, okay? Is that a deal?
Certainly.
Okay, all right. As a kid, I lived in a Bolshevik family for whom religion is the opiate of the people. They were all atheists, and they had no conscious awareness of anything except their five senses. And that was absolutely brought home to me by uncles who came to me and said, "Why do you go to church? What do you get there?" And I'd say, "It makes me feel better." And they just kind of wander off like, whoa. Okay, they had no idea what religion was even for. That religion has to do with contacting disembodied people at different levels of a hierarchy. Later on, I read the Urantia book, and that's all about the hierarchy of heaven. And the Owaspy is about the hierarchy of heaven, and the Voyagers 2 is all about the hierarchy of heaven. And the entire universe is populated with souls that are in this or that or in another incarnate form or not, but they're functioning in chain of command. They have rules they have to follow. They have policies they have to abide by. And they have work to do. And the God that arrived here 26,000 years ago, Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton in the Hebrew Bible, was a mid-level biologist, engineer in the universal hierarchy. He's from HU2. Now, the way the universe is organized, and I'll give you a picture of it, it's like a great big fat frisbee, okay? And there's a sphere in the center of it, and then there are other spheres circling the center sphere. In fact, there are 12 spheres circling the center sphere. Those are the 12 houses of the zodiac. Ta-da! All right? The whole house of the zodiac is very real. Astrology is real. Why? Because when you live in the central universe, that's your clock. That's your clock. And so they have attributed characteristics and traditions to the 12 houses going around the central universe. And the entire universe year is 26,672 years or something like that. Okay. That's called the precession of the equinoxes. And Yahweh, the Hebrew God, the middle-level bureaucrat, got here at the beginning of the age of Pisces, which was about 27,000 years ago. And when he got here, this world had had within its recent past, been in a demolition derby with Nibiru and Earth. What we live on is the remnants of Tiamat. And the toroidal battery energy generating part of Tiamat crashed onto the floor of the universe where it's all ice and water. Okay, and we're still there. So the people who argue that the world is a spinning sphere are giving us a fable story that has been devised as an explanation for our social history. The people who tell us that the world is flat are trying to be in harmony with the indigenous stories that remember the destruction derby between the three planets in which Tiamat ended up in the basement, basically, of the universe. Okay. So we have a galaxy hierarchy, and they're called the Christos founders and the Anu Elohim, and they are spoken of in Voyagers 2. Our Bible doesn't have any of this. And neither does the Sumerian cuneiform tablets of the Anunnaki, because although they lived by the traditions and policies and treaties of the galaxy, they also live by three of the policies that empires find sacrosanct wherever empires raise their head. One, okay, secret treachery. They say one thing, they do something else. You will find secret treachery in the military, in the Masons, in every profession, law, medicine, banking. There's always secret treachery. There's always an in-group doing things only for themselves and opposed to the rest of humanity whom they deem as lesser. I have a problem with that. Okay. So Yahweh got here 27,000 years ago and began restoring and recycling the remnants of Tiamat, and what we live on is that. However, the galaxy has been relentless in its pursuit of empire. And the El-Anu Treaty, after the Lyran Wars, which is before the destruction derby of Earth and Tiamat, specifies that there are superior races and inferior races, and the superior ones are supposed to dominate and exploit the inferior ones. The problem with that idea that we have found very profoundly true is that intelligence isn't all there is. I know a lot of very intelligent people who have stupefied themselves to a single perspective, a single doctrine, a single dogma, a single narrow way of thinking. And they'll give you 550 reasons why that is the only possible interpretation of truth. But they're just straining at gnats and swallowing camels. The reality of life in our universe is that there's a great deal of diversity, and our world is smack dab in the middle of it. And that's why there's so many UFOs coming here, and there's a lot of traffic here. Is traffic something that we need to keep secret? Is this silly? Well, when the policy is secret treachery, that's what the government tends to do. Why? Because the government is made up of individuals who are Masons, Rosicrucians, Chivalric Order, Order of the Garter, Order of St. John, Order of the Thistle. They belong to these fifth dimensional galactic run societies that teach a form of problem solving there. Okay, just as if you go to an engineering school, they'll teach you how to use levers and pulleys to make something happen. Well, you go to the Masonic order and they have their levers and pulleys, all right? And it's a form of wishcraft, all right? I have placed the link to the wishcraft page just below on my Facebook page, and I've given it to Steve too. And we humans need to understand that wishcraft, which is white magic, and witchcraft, which is black magic, are the methods in play for the elites in all elite stations And these are all the rich people. These are all the people of influence. And that's why it's very hard to get rid of them. And that's what we have to do, is we have to root out the fifth dimensional wishcraft problem-solving method that kicks problems like a can down the street and then uses influence and their problem reaction solution method to create alternative problems to cover over the real problems. It's just not working. And to prove to you that the fifth dimensional problem solving method doesn't work, the status of Nibiru is proof that karma finally catches up with it. Now, the Anunnaki were a mercantile mobilized planet. Nibiru was mobilized, and it had this lovely veil of ice and water around it that pretty much kept everything out of its way, particularly as it came through the asteroid belt. All right. The problem was in late 2012 and early 2013 when it arrived here, or maybe it was 2011. Okay, but that's within a short period of time. Its ice wake caught up with them. They weren't paying attention. And the ice wake of Nibiru stripped off all of its outer layers of protection. So Nibiru can't go anywhere. We're stuck with it in our skies, and that's the reason for all the chemtrails to hide it from us. But you see, secret treachery is how the chemtrail program is run. Secret treachery is how the fluoride program is run. Secret treachery is how the vaccine program to make people sterile and make people sick is run. It's all under secret treachery. And so we, the ordinary walking around working daily people, have to figure out how to be safe from all the secret treachery. To make it even a little more challenging, their second rule of behavior is called a protection tax racket, in which, you know the game, you pay your insurance premiums, so if something happens, the expenses get paid for. Life insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance. These are protection rackets, all right? It's a little different from subscribing to a service where when you need the service, you have a right to use the service, all right? Maybe subscriptions fall in that category or not, I'm not sure. Certainly, these timeshare recreational facilities, all right, fall into that category. So protection tax racketeering is a integral part of the philosophy and policy and the ethic of the empire. All right. Third one, all right, is trafficking. People trafficking, human trafficking, kid trafficking, as in human resource management trafficking, sending out a requisition for a worker to work a certain job and expecting to get 100 or 500 resumes to fill one job. That's a protection racket. Okay, that's covering yourself so you always have more than enough candidates. Never mind the effect on the candidates of your protection racket game. Okay, it's a lottery. All right, lotteries are fine in the empire model. Prostitution is okay. Child sex trafficking and sacrificing unwanted children is a big thing in the Babylonian model. Okay, I experienced it personally on Titan, and I experienced it personally in this life when I was trafficked as a 6-week-old infant with false identification papers and dumped into the adoption market in San Francisco and placed in a family that was so unprepared and alien to my own biology, and there was no attempt. There was absolutely no attempt to match me to parents that made any sense to me. And that's just human trafficking. We now have body parts marketing trafficking, and we have aborted baby parts marketing trafficking. We have immigrant trafficking. All right, these are all ways that the empire generates profits. Okay, the empire generates profits by all kinds of vices, by all kinds of secret things, and finally by invasive conquest. They never have enough resources. The empire always has to go out and conquer other less progressive peoples so they can grab their resources. That's the third part of the empire model. And the empire model is found in communism, socialism. It's found in the Quran. It's found in the Talmud. So both Islam and Judaism are infected with the empire model. It didn't get into the New Testament of the Christian scriptures, all right? And so there are some denominations, there are some sects that eschew and avoid and teach against the empire model. And they're basically the Anabaptist, tradition. They're Pacific, and they're not worldly, and they're not consumers in the same sense, and they do everything democratically. All right. Those are the peoples that the empire seeks to eradicate. All right. So if you're a follower of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and let your yes mean yes and your no mean no, and he who does not work, let him not eat. Okay. If you're a follower of those behavioral precepts, you are an enemy of the empire. You are an enemy of the empire. Now, I've been an enemy of the empire since I was born, because MI5 and MI6 have all my real records. All right. I know they do. They're not going to give them to me because their bag is secret treachery. All right. So my connections to my living or dead parents have been eradicated just because of who I am. And that's where I get the energy to do this, because it was such a dirty, rotten, stinking thing for the British government to do, to cut me away from my family completely and totally at the age of 6 weeks old. What had I done that was such a crime that I needed a life sentence of slavery to make up for it somehow? So my anger against what happened to me is what keeps me going. And you can see it does keep me going. All right. And so I got into that family that had no conscious awareness of anything but the 5 senses. And they screamed and hollered at each other about peace. And I thought that was kind of strange. All right. And so I just kept quiet in that family. I really had to. And I did what, I was observant. I did what I was told, and I was a good girl. And then when I guess I was 12 or 13, I joined the Rainbow Girls. And I realized that this other method, this method of turning toward the east and having an altar and saying this and moving this around and doing this to this and getting one of these and all of that, I said to myself, these people are crazy. This isn't going to have any effect on anything. All right, so I quit the Rainbow Girls because I didn't like reciting their doctrines. All right, so then a few years later, after I married, I joined the Rosicrucians, and I paid $4 a month for their little printed monographs, and I read their monographs, and it was the same stuff, form an altar to the east with candles and this and that, and say this and recite this and do that and put this here and do that there. And I said to myself, these people are crazy. That's not going to make anything better. Okay, so that's when I got into Bible study. And I honestly think that the methods that Jesus Christ discussed in his teachings, how people can get along with people, are simply the best that there is. All right, that secret treachery does not work. Protection racketeering does not work. And invasive conquest does not work as permanent, solid principles by which to run a family, a neighborhood, a state, or a nation. They just are principles that are too wicked and too corrupted to even consider. All right? And so that's when I got on my high horse. You know how people in their 20s and 30s get on a high horse with all the anger and stuff that goes with that. All right. And, anger will take you a long way, but it also make you sick. Okay. All right. So then I went through some experiences with families and marriages and divorces and stuff. And in the early 1990s, I was taking care of my foster mother, adopted mother. And I took care of her for 6 years, in and out of the hospitals and in and out of the system and in and out of the policies and procedures and practices of the sorcery which American medicine has become. It is actually sorcery. You do these processes and you invoke these things and that things and those things. It's all about thinging people and thinging their bodies rather than relating to, well, how did that bite of that apple feel for you? That's phenomenology. All right, so I got into methods, the alternative methods of problem solving at university from 88 to 93, and I found out that the methods of solving problems corporately by consensus with large groups is already known. We already know. John N. Warfield created the interactive management program that helped many corporations solve their serious social, financial, and physical and logistic problems. I mean, they're just directed at bringing up the brainstorming the possible operations that might have something to do with the problem, and then putting those in an order, and then picking out the ones that seem to have the most relevance, and then stacking them according to which one affects which one, and then finding the one place where the least action produces the best result. That stuff is not brain surgery, okay? It's not rocket science. It's not that difficult. But notice in the 1990s, we were in the Clinton administration, and they bent over backwards to avoid any of those methods. And so, you know how I write stuff online. So I wrote to the Clintons, I wrote to the Clinton White House, and I wrote to a lot of the departments of the government. And at a certain point, they became alarmed. And the Secret Service went to talk to my family, and all of a sudden I was no longer able to rent any place. I was no longer able to work anywhere, and I had to flee to a friend's house because I couldn't do anything. I was stuck. And at the time, because by 1997, Mama finally passed on, and I was left with her camper and nothing. And so I took off across the country because I knew that I had pissed off. I knew I had pissed off a lot of people. Really, I made a lot of people very unhappy because of the way that I had done whatever I'd done. I don't know. I still don't quite understand why I made people so unhappy. I never intended to. And so starting 1999, I was in the camper, and then I was in friends. I was, I think they call it sofa surfing, when you stay with friends for a while. And then finally, when the tumors in my adrenals were officially diagnosed, I was able to get on disability and able to get enough rent money together to have a place of my own. And so from 2001 to 2005, I was basically on the run, staying here and there, because wherever I went around on Tuesdays and Fridays, between midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning, I would stop breathing. And every once in a while, I'd show up at the emergency room, and they'd tell me I was having a panic attack. And I'd say, no, I just stopped breathing. Okay, and that went on for about 5 years. Gradually, by 2007, 2008, those episodes of having my breathing interrupted in the middle of the night had pretty much halted. In 2008, I had a next-door neighbor who was angry when I spurned his marriage proposal, and a few weeks later, standing at the bus stop from his directly opposite bedroom window, I got hit with an infected dart, and there was blood all over the sidewalk. And my friend grabbed me and said, "What happened? You're bleeding all over the place." And I said, "I don't know, but I have to go home." So I went home and crashed for a couple of days and showed up at the ER with lesions on my hands and arms up to my elbows. And the ER doctor said, "Madam, what you've got is delusional parasititis." That was their word for Morgellons, and I've been struggling with Morgellons ever since. Okay, I have it pretty well under control. All right, so I've been gang-stalked. I've had my car altered, parts taken off of it. What are some of the other things that has happened to me? I was almost kidnapped in Morgan Hill by a taxi that wasn't the right taxi to be showing up. The cop that helped me deal with that problem with the taxi in Morgan Hill said to me, "Lady, you just really need to get out of town." So those were the years I was running. And I don't run anymore. Now I just study. But the not breathing in the middle of the night has started up again. And it started up again when I began talking about what the Illuminati are currently engaged in, because I've been following a site online, a YouTube channel. Where's that YouTube channel? That is talking about Glamis. It's glamuscalling.org, which is an organization of the House of Wettin. Okay? I began talking about the witch, and she's unpretentious and unapologetic about describing herself as a witch. Her name is actually Elizabeth. She's a third cousin to Elizabeth II, which means she's a cousin of mine, which is a dubious distinction. She calls herself Somerset Balanoff. And one of her daughters runs a restaurant down in L.A. where they have strange meat. It's a cannibal restaurant. So I've been looking very deeply, drilling down into glamuscalling.org. And there's a site online that's doing the same thing. And what we're finding out is whatever it is that Somerset Balanoff announces is exactly what happens. And she has set herself up as the hierarchy, as where the buck stops for the Illuminati. And she is in Glamis Castle in Scotland. That's near Aberdeen.
Emily.
Yes.
Do you know what the Illuminati cards are?
The Illuminati cards.
Cards,
yeah.
Supposedly they are, in air quotations, predicting everything that
of course.
has come to fore, too.
Yeah, it's witchcraft, right? It's pure witchcraft.
Well,
Black magic.
It's like they're running off of a program.
They're running out of a program, and this lady, being at the top of the pyramid, appears to be the person, the diktat, who is running the program. So if you go to glamuscalling.org and you read down what she has influence over, you find out she gives orders to the U.S. military. She gives orders to Bilderberg. She gives orders to corporations. She's at the head of a network of surveillance satellites.
What's the name of that site again?
Glamis Castle in Scotland. It's glamiscalling.org. And this lady is referred to by Vladimir Putin as a very scary wich.
Do you know how to spell that? I must be spelling it wrong.
GLAMIS CALLING.org.
Yes, I put a U in there instead of a...
You're thinking of glamour, right? Not glamis. Okay, all right, you got it. All right, now you're going to have to ask for permission to peruse the site, and I asked for permission, and
Really?
I got permission.
Really?
So don't think that if you ask for permission that you'll be denied. You may actually get in if you're not.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about that. I am able to get in, but they have deleted all information from July 2019 through January 2020. They've deleted the last 5 months of information. So you can only go to the older files. But everything in those announcements came about and was satisfied on the schedule that they said. So that woman actually is, in fact, dictating to Masons, corporations, and governments all over the world. Now, I have a problem with that. Because it nullifies democratic process. It nullifies validated human problem solving. It nullifies everybody who isn't part of the 1% elite. And on that reason alone, even if we weren't talking about these three policies of secret treachery, which in Islam is called taqiyya, and a protection racketeering, which is called jizya, and invasive conquest, which is called jihad. Okay, these policies actually get played out in corporations as well, and they do in social media, because the algorithms that drive social media are secret. All right, isn't that how it works? And the protection racket occurs the way they collect their statistics and analytics. They favor the ones they favor, and they silence and censor the ones they silence and censor. And then when they get prosperous enough, they'll buy out another corporation, And so the corporate world is full of secret treachery, protection rackets, and invasive dominion. And so this is why, defense contractors have more, quote, rights than communities do. This is why war profiteering is normal. You see, the practices of empire, the methods themselves, are inimical to a consensus-based, reality-based, fairness-based, justice-based system. They're all twisted. And to make matters even knottier, and I say knottier because I say to myself, God wants us to figure out how to deal with this. He's not sending us a rescue operation. We are going to actually have to deal with this. How are we going to deal with these elites who subvert and twist every set of statutes and laws so that they have their secret treachery, they have their local mafia, and they have their ability to capture and dominate others? This is not what's going to make a just society ever. Now, if you look at the methods of the left, and I'm not talking about the people, the methods of the left, if you're talking about Marxism, it was all about removing all of the edifices of the state so that the children, the children who, of course, can be easily influenced to do whatever the Piper of Hamelin decides to do. Okay. And we are the children of Hamelin, and the Piper is the mainstream media. And the Piper is, his tune is one that was devised long ago and has been in use for thousands of years and is very effective. And his tune is secret, treachery, protection rackets, and dominating methods. And that's what corporate statutes are all about, is dominating methods. So our challenge is a big one. And it's bigger than any of us thought or dreamed or dreaded, because it's so in our faces. You know, all of the vices of Hollywood are staged vices to profit the empire. All of the diseases that have become industry, heart disease and cancer and just medical errors, have become the profiteering lifeblood of the allopathic school. Education, having utilized the Common Core curriculum, all right, let's take a look at our children. The kids today, if you look at the kids in the protests, they're insubordinate, they're disrespectful, their language is filthy and profane, and they're pussified, and they're entitled, and they're brats. That's what our education system has produced in the United States over the last 2 generations of children. And the teachers don't even notice that they're teaching stupidity. As an old, I just don't understand why the teachers themselves haven't put their foot down and say, we're not going to use these materials. These materials are corrupting. These materials are defiling. These materials teach our children to be disrespectful of every form of wisdom and knowledge and goodness that have ever been taught to children. But no, the teachers just do what they're told. They don't strike. They don't protest. They don't petition. They don't take their case to the people. They don't take their case to YouTube. I have yet to see any teacher, well, maybe 1 or 2 in the last couple of years, talk about the effects of the Common Core stupefaction system upon our children. Not to mention what goes on at the universities, because at the universities, students are taught just straight out of fifth dimensional Anunnaki theology and epistemology, that we are all one. There's no such thing as truth. All life is an illusion. The more you think about a problem, the more the problem grows. All you can do is create a consensus about what you want to visualize and want. And then maybe you can manifest what you want. Okay, well, the only people who manifest what they want are the ones who are into secret treachery, protection rackets, and invasive conquests. And we know who those are. And so in order to be successful in this world, you can't be a very nice person. And if you are a very nice person, you have to get used to the idea that you will always be discounted, talked over, and deemed as inferior to the elect, to the elite, to the ones who want to rule with an iron rod. Remember that from Scripture, okay? And there's a Scripture that I say with all the intention that Scripture is heresy, that in the forest and in the ocean and in the savannah and in the desert, there's no biological entity that's ruling with an iron rod, okay? All of the beings that are left in the forest and the ocean and the savanna and the desert are living by laws of cause and effect and relationship. And basic to everything is relationship. Whereas in the fifth dimensional problem solving, relationship doesn't even enter in unless you're in group or out group, okay? If you're in group, you can do nothing wrong. If you're out group, you can do nothing right. That is the Elanu Treaty that we talked about in the beginning. There are superior races and there are inferior races. So every club that says, okay, we are going to rule everybody else is part of that treaty that says they think that they're special. And, you know, it's one thing to be special because your behavior facilitates and enables other people. There are some people who have special skills and they have special talents. There's this little girl, Alba, I guess she's in Germany. She's 11, and she's composing concertos, and she plays both the violin and the piano, and she sits down at the piano with an orchestra, and she commands the whole orchestra. She's 11 years old. My God, she's fantastic. Now, there is a special person. Or this young pianist, this young blonde, young Russian pianist, Maliev, okay? He's 18 now, but he plays like Slav Richter, for crying out loud. He's fantastic. You know, those two ought to get together one of these days. You know, they're a couple of really, really special kids because they have gifts that transcend ordinary life. All right, that's specialness. But I'm special because the color of my skin is lighter or darker than yours. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? What makes people special to me is their ability to listen and have a heart. Because what you have in your head is what you have in your head. And what you have in your will is what you want. What you have to have. And at the heart, you have to somehow coordinate between what you know is possible and what you want. And so for me, the people who are special are the ones who connect at the heart, who enable listening, who enable empathy, who enable quiet to step back and watch things. I'm getting a great deal of good listening to Jordan Peterson. He explains a lot of the relationship issues to me that I missed as a child because I wasn't in a biological family and I didn't really have parents. Okay, so he's helping me kind of catch up, and I'm learning some of the things I probably should have learned much, much sooner, but you know, better late than never. Better late than never. How are we doing, Steve? Do we have any questions to deal with now that you know what I think the occult is up to?
Not at the moment.
Oh, dear. Well, I'm just kind of wondering which way to go from here. How do we stop the witchcraft and the black magic witchcraft that are being directed against us as a problem-solving method that is supposed to be superior because it comes from the extraterrestrials, which is actually creating havoc in our world, absolute havoc. Do you have any questions about that Somerset, what's her name?
Yeah, I was just doing some searching. She has like 3 daughters, I think, that are running the show.
Yeah.
Karina, I think you mentioned Karina, but there's 2 other daughters. I just got rid of the page, and there's quite a few other people, I think a niece or something like that, and one of them's name had to be Windsor.
Yeah, she's a cousin of mine.
Yeah, she's a young girl.
Just a dubious distinction, I'll tell you. But what concerns me is there's now going to be a cannibal restaurant in New York, and there's already one in Tokyo.
Well, I did search that up, and nobody's really clear on whether that's just a gag or not.
In one place, they have pictures of the people who signed up for the game that they lost, which meant they got eaten. I have a picture of a little note that Prince Charles wrote to the restaurant. Praising. Okay, but they have a process of the victims self-selecting that is legal under corporate statutes. So what they're doing, killing people for their meat, is not off the shelf illegal. Can you believe this? All right.
Well, abortion.
How sick is that?
Abortion isn't illegal either.
Yes. Okay. And so that's where the empire and its epistemology drives society every single time the empire rears its head. Sumer was that way, Babylon was that way, Assyria was that way, Greece was that way, Rome was that way, Tartary was that way. Tartary got taken out in the 1840s, all right, by the mud floods. That was their apocalypse in the 1840s. And we're due for another reset like the mud flood of the 1840s. But how do you take out the people who have their own personal million-dollar enclaves, the people who run all the banks, the people that run all the... How do you take out the elite? How do you take them out of power? I'm looking for an idea.
By the barrel of a gun.
I'm afraid you may be right. That's basically how China took them out. China, and if you've read the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, in Protocols 23 and 24, what they say is you take out all of the elites except for the one dictator. And so that's why China, although it runs too by those same provisions, they have secret treachery, they kill off the people who are different, they have protection rackets, and they have 70 million extra men so that in any war, their families are not at risk. And, of course, what happened to Russia? Russia's experience really affected Russia differently from the way the experience of Mao Zedong and communism affected China. Russia has re-embraced Christianity with a passion because they don't want the empire in Russia.
They're not doing anything about the hackers over there.
About that. Tell me some more about that.
Well, there's hundreds and hundreds of hacker groups that are working freely over in Russia.
And what are they working to accomplish?
Theft, credit card theft, identity theft, and there are indications that high-ranking people in the government are helping these rings, or probably even running them.
Well, and of course, Russia still has a lot of sanctions on them, so they're going to find ways to steal. But steal is not beheading people. It's not gang rape. It's not child marriage. It's not feminine genital mutilation. It's not cruelty at a level, it's white-collar crime. And Russia doesn't get its share.
They still have their mafias over there, too.
Most of the Russian mafia moved to New Jersey. Did you know that? 61.
Probably.
Yeah, most of the Russian mafia moved to New Jersey after the Soviet Union fell. And that's why Russia has been able to re-embrace the Orthodox Church, because the mafia left. It's like the Italian mafia went to Chicago and New York. So what's left in Italy is what's left. But the real mafias are where they can function according to corporate statutes with impunity. So you may be right that the gun issue is more central to cleaning out the Illuminati than...
Well, I've said from day one, 10 years ago, this only ends one way. We only get peace and freedom one way, and that's by force. I don't see them relinquishing their power and their so-called authority.
I don't see any way for us, by some magical operation of some ET God, okay, to come clean up this mess. I don't see any way that Jesus can come fix it. Do you?
No.
Okay, and that is the point that I got to, that, after studying scriptures for half a century and all the other philosophies, this witchcraft, black, white magic method has infected everything from the top down. And if we're going to have a society in which trust is possible, in which we can expect our family bloodline to continue into the future because the land is not being desecrated and polluted and corrupted and made uninhabitable, if we're going to have a future, like the indigenous people say, 7 generations, we can't let these people continue what they're doing because they're ruining everything. And personally, I have never in my life shot a gun. I'm hopeless. I'm useless. And so I'm wondering what I can do to bring to people's recognition that our situation is so entrenched in the elite themselves. I mean, Bill Gates believes that he's doing good for the world because...
I don't think he does.
Well, I don't know how he sleeps at night, but he's the one
like a
who
baby.
Funded the Communist core curriculum.
He's getting his. He sleeps like a baby, just like the Rothschilds sleep like a baby, just like all the Rockefellers and the Bushes and the just like Trump. They all sleep like a baby.
He's not sleeping like a baby. He doesn't sleep.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
Oh, he's trying like JFK was trying to actually make a difference.
Well, he's still supporting Israel. Bombs are still being dropped on Middle Eastern countries.
So I'm beating the crap out of him over that. Every few days I send
Hillary
him
Clinton.
a little love note about that.
Hillary,
yeah, I know. He is
Hillary
deceived about the very nature of Israel. Israel is not Jewish, okay? Israel is not Jewish. If you look at the statistics, the population, it is 60% secular and other. It's only 40% nominal Jewish, but of those, a large number are Talmudists, and the Talmud have embraced the same empire, secret treachery, protection racket, and conquest policies as the globalists have. So maybe there are 20% of Jews who are really Jews, because in the law, I pasted the law everywhere. I made my own copy of the law. I went to a Jewish website and I cut 613 mitzvot and I put it in a text file, and like an editor, I edited it and I organized it and I put everything that was alike together and everything that was different apart. And I came up with, there's not 613, there's only 254 legal principles. And I put it in a single page, and I put that page everywhere. Look, the Mosaic law that Enlil gave is no nonsense common law. That's all it is. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's not magical, nothing. It's just common sense. If you do something good, you should get a good outcome. If you do something bad, you need to be disrupted and you have to correct it. I mean, it's just common sense. And only I'd say 20% of Israel is actually Jewish, following the Jewish law. And I keep telling them that every day, to Jewish Journal and to the president. I say, look, Israel's not Jewish. And I convinced a very major pastor, and I won't bring up his name, of that. And he has become a voice of a very articulate voice of dissent in the Christian evangelical community. Oh, they must hate my guts. Because it's what's true is Israel is not Jewish. It's Zionist. Its Supreme Court is built like the Temple of Baal in Babylon. It's pure occult magic. Its Supreme Court building. All right. It's an occult globalist nation that has the same ethos as Islam, as the Iron Mountain conferences of 1963 to 1967, as Satanism, as Lucifer. They're all doing the same thing. And it's all in their methods. They keep their methods quiet. So, I yell at Mr. Trump all the time about that. He only knows what he knows, okay? He doesn't know everything, but at least he cares. And that has not been the characteristic. Going back, the first New World Order president was Jimmy Carter, who was part of the Pegasus DARPA program that, utilizing the time technologies of the looking glass time machine, forecasted forward to all of the presidencies until 2016 and basically rigged all the elections so that only globalist presidents would preside until the 2016 election. And during that election, I don't know who was supposed to win, but it didn't turn out the way anybody expected. All right.
It turned out the way I expected.
We haven't had a sincere president since JFK, because you know, and I know what Johnson was and what Nixon was and Ford was. They were all just kowtowing to the elite, and I'm not going to kowtow to the elite anymore. And it's possible they're going to succeed. I've been hit with this no breathing, these microwave bursts in the middle of the night for 3 nights out of the last 4. And I cannot withstand much more of that. And if they kill me, all right, I've done my job. And if I can't find any protection, then that's just how it is. So that's where we're at today. That's why I'm not on the video today, because I look like death warmed over. And we keep going, Steve, right?
Yes, we do.
But based on your idea that the only thing that's going to take the Illuminati out is force, how do you want to do that?
I don't want to do that.
How do you want to do that? Come on, let me see your method.
No, force them out. That not only means physically, but that also means stop voting for these people. Stop the whole process. Capitulating with these people.
Yeah, there are 25,000 of them in the government hierarchy. What we would have to do.
Well, the military would have to take them out, but the military is in control anyway. So how's the military going to take themselves out?
Well, the military is divided into factions. This much we know.
Well, everything is divided into factions.
Yeah, because that's part of the...
They're all good and bad on the inside.
Yeah. So I'll just keep saying my prayers and keep talking about how we got where we are. And some of the things I can talk about is how to keep from being totally destroyed by these microwave bursts, because I have come up with some methods. But truth be told, after an hour of talking, I'm exhausted.
I kind of figured you would be.
Yeah, I'm exhausted, so I'm going to go my way. And I hope that our listeners understand a little more about the gaming that's going on over all of our heads by these supposed elites. And the House of Windsor is one of the most corrupted. My dad left. He fled the job of king because his father was a Zionist and his elder brother was a fascist, and he wasn't going either of those ways, so he had no way to go. He had to flee.
Do you want this recording?
Pardon me?
Do you want this recording?
Yeah, yes, I do want this recording, and I'll put it up with some pictures.
Okay.
Or maybe you could put it up with some pictures and give it to me in an MP4 format. Could you do that?
You'd have to send me pictures. Don't you have the ability to put it up?
Oh, I can put it up. Yes, I can put it up. But okay. I just need to have the MP4 file, and I'll send you some great pictures that show some of the things I've talked about.
All right.
Okay, sweetheart. We did it. So we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.